Picture this. You are halfway through a sentence when someone laughs. Not because you said something funny. They laugh to make the room look at you differently. Then they lean back and say, maybe we should let someone with experience finish this. For 1 second, everything inside you moves at once. Your face becomes warm. Your chest tightens. A perfect reply arrives 3 seconds too late. Part of you wants to attack. Another part wants to smile and pretend it did not matter. You know that if you explode, they may call you unstable. But if you say nothing, you may spend the rest of the day angry at yourself. This is how disrespect steals from you twice. First, another person tries to lower you. Then they tempt you to abandon your own character while you try to prove your worth. The first theft belongs to them. The second decision belongs to you. Stoicism is often misunderstood here. People think a Stoic response means feeling nothing, saying nothing, and allowing anyone to treat you however they want. That is not strength. Sometimes it is fear wearing a calm face. The Stoics did not teach passive surrender. They taught clear judgment, self-command, justice, courage, and action guided by reason. A calm person can correct someone. A disciplined person can end a conversation. A good person can remove access. And a wise person can leave without turning hatred into a second home. In this video, you will learn a 7-level method for handling disrespect. It is called the dignity ladder. The 7 levels are simple. See: slow, speak, set, study, select, step away. You will learn when silence is power and when it is avoidance. You will learn the difference between a boundary and a threat. You will learn how to recognize a mistake, a pattern, and a person who is using your patience as permission. Most important, you will learn how to protect yourself without becoming cruel. Because your real goal is not to win a scene. It is to leave the scene still owning your mind. Before the first level, we need to separate 2 things that are often confused: ego and dignity. Ego needs the room to confirm your value. Dignity asks whether your conduct reflects your values. Ego says, nobody can be allowed to think they defeated me. Dignity says, I will not cooperate with behavior that violates a clear standard. These can look similar for a few seconds. Both may cause you to speak. Both may cause you to leave. The difference is the result you are trying to control. Ego tries to control the image in every other mind. Dignity controls your participation. Imagine that someone makes a dismissive comment during a meeting. Ego wants the perfect reply that makes the whole table admire you. Dignity wants the record corrected, the boundary stated, and the work protected. Ego may keep fighting after the issue is clear, because the applause has not arrived. Dignity can stop when its purpose is complete. This distinction protects you from 2 opposite mistakes. The first is overreaction. A stranger is rude in a parking lot, and you risk your safety because walking away feels like losing. A person misunderstands 1 sentence online, and you surrender an evening trying to force them to see your character. A coworker offers direct criticism, and you hear an attack because your image feels threatened. The second mistake is self-abandonment. Someone repeatedly humiliates you, and you call your silence maturity. A relative breaks privacy, and you keep sharing secrets because changing the relationship feels unkind. A partner uses contempt, and you focus only on regulating your reaction while the behavior becomes normal. Stoicism corrects both errors. You do not need to fight for your ego. You do need to act for justice, safety, honesty, and character. This is why the dignity ladder is a ladder. You do not begin every problem at the highest level. You start with clear sight. You climb only as high as the evidence and the pattern require. A misunderstanding may need 1 question. A careless remark may need 1 correction. A repeated violation may need a consequence. A dangerous pattern may need immediate distance and outside support. The method prevents fear from making the response too small, and pride from making it too large. There is another reason disrespect feels so intense. It does not stay in the present. One laugh can awaken every room where you felt small. One interruption can carry the voice of a parent, teacher, partner, or boss who taught you that speaking up had a cost. Suddenly you are not answering one person. You are answering a history. That history deserves care. But the person in front of you should not automatically receive the force of everyone behind you. Ask yourself, how much of this reaction belongs to this moment? The answer may be all of it. The behavior may be serious, or the present event may have touched an older wound and made a small act feel enormous. Recognizing that difference does not invalidate your feeling. It helps you choose an action that fits reality. You can take your history seriously without making it the judge of every new scene. That is the kind of calm we are building here. Not numbness. Not submission. Accurate strength. Let us begin with the mistake that causes most bad responses. Deciding what happened before you have seen it clearly. Level 1. See what happened before you name it. When you feel disrespected, your mind becomes a fast storyteller. It rarely reports only the event. It adds a motive, a history, and a prediction. The event may be, she interrupted me twice. The story becomes, she thinks I am weak. Everyone in the room agrees. If I do not destroy her argument right now, nobody will respect me again. Those are not the same thing. The first is observable. The second is an interpretation built under pressure. Epictetus taught that events and our judgments about events are different. That idea is not an excuse for bad behavior. It is a demand for accuracy. If you cannot separate what happened from what you added, you cannot choose a response. You can only react to your own story. So the first step on the dignity ladder is to ask 2 questions. What exactly happened? What meaning did I immediately attach to it? Suppose a friend does not answer your message for 2 days. The fact is the delay. The story might be that they are punishing you, using you, or proving that you never mattered. Any of those stories could be true. None of them has been proven by the delay alone. Suppose a coworker takes credit for an idea you explained privately. The observable facts may be stronger. You sent the idea on Tuesday. They presented it on Thursday, and they did not mention you. You still may not know their full motive, but you have enough information to address the behavior. Clear seeing does not mean endless doubt. It means using the amount of certainty the evidence allows. This matters because disrespect comes in different forms. Some disrespect is careless. A person speaks sharply because they are rushed, embarrassed, or unaware of their tone. Some is performative. They want an audience to laugh, agree, or watch you lose control. Some is strategic. They interrupt, belittle, move boundaries, or deny obvious facts because confusion gives them an advantage. And some behavior is not disrespect at all. It is correction that hurts because it contains truth. That last category is uncomfortable, but it matters. If a manager says, "This work is late for the 3rd time," and the team cannot depend on it, you may feel embarrassed. But embarrassment does not automatically turn fair criticism into disrespect. Tone, setting, facts, and intent all matter. A person who cannot accept correction will call every limit an insult. A person with no self-respect will call every insult a misunderstanding. Wisdom lives between those extremes. Here is a practical test. Describe the event in 1 sentence without using labels such as toxic, narcissistic, jealous, hateful, or abusive. Say, he mocked my accent in front of 4 people. Say, she read my private message aloud after I asked her not to share it. Say, he disagreed with my plan and explained why. Concrete language reduces confusion. It also makes your next move stronger. "You are always toxic" invites a fight about character. "You shared a private message after I asked you not to" names the conduct. This is not just good communication. It is moral discipline. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly brought himself back to the work of seeing things as they are. He knew that a mind ruled by labels becomes easy to manipulate. The disrespectful person wants you to become less precise. They benefit when you exaggerate, because then they can ignore the real issue and attack your reaction. Do not give them that advantage. See the act. Separate it from the story. Decide how certain you are. Then climb to the second level. Level 2. Slow the first impulse. The first impulse is not a command. Your body may prepare for battle before your mind has understood the scene. Your heart speeds up. Your voice wants to rise. Your attention narrows until the insult feels like the only thing in the room. At that moment, speed feels powerful. Usually, it is expensive. Seneca argued that delay is one of the strongest remedies for anger because delay gives judgment time to return. He was not telling people to bury anger forever. He was telling them not to hand a permanent consequence to a temporary surge. The goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to stop emotion from choosing your first sentence. You need a pause small enough to use in real life. Not a weak. Not a silent. Punishment. Sometimes you need 3 seconds. Put both feet on the floor. Exhale before you answer. Lower your voice instead of raising it. Ask one clean question. What did you mean by that? Can you repeat that? Are you criticizing the idea or speaking about me? These questions do 2 things. First, they buy your judgment a few seconds. Second, they remove the shelter of ambiguity. Many people become bold when they can hide an insult inside a joke, a vague comment, or a quick interruption. Calm clarification makes them choose, own the behavior or retreat from it. There is a difference between a pause and passive aggression. A pause says, "I am choosing my response." Passive aggression says, "I will make you suffer without telling you what I need." One protects self-command. The other uses silence as a weapon. If you need more than a few seconds, say so directly. "I am too angry to discuss this well right now. I will come back to it tomorrow. I want to respond carefully. Give me 10 minutes. I am ending this call for now. We can try again when we are both calmer." That is not weakness. It is a decision with a time and a purpose. But be honest with yourself. If you say you need time and never return because conflict scares you, the pause has become escape. If you refuse contact only to make the other person panic, the pause has become control. The Stoic standard is not silence. The standard is reason. Sometimes reason says answer now. If someone humiliates a colleague in a meeting, a short interruption may be necessary. Let's keep this respectful. If a person makes a racist remark, clarity may matter more than comfort. If somebody threatens safety, the response is not a philosophical conversation. It is distance, support, documentation, or emergency help as the situation requires. Slowing down does not mean moving slowly when action is necessary. It means refusing blind action. Here is a useful rule. Make your first response smaller than your anger wants, but large enough to protect what matters. If your anger wants a 10-minute speech, use 1 sentence. If fear wants complete silence, ask 1 question. If pride wants to humiliate them publicly, correct the behavior without attacking their worth. The first 10 seconds often decide whether you will handle the event or become part of it. Epictetus warned against handing your mind to anyone who can provoke you with words. That does not mean words never matter. It means the attacker should not receive control of your judgment as a reward for bad conduct. Your pause is the moment you take that control back. Now you are ready to speak. Level 3. Speak the boundary in 1 clean sentence. Many boundaries fail because they arrive as speeches. The person explains their childhood, their intentions, their patience, the last 6 incidents, and every emotion produced by them. By the end, the actual line has disappeared. A strong boundary is usually shorter. Do not speak to me that way. Keep the criticism about the work, not my character. That information was private. Do not share it again. I will discuss this, but not while you are shouting. That joke was about me, and I did not find it acceptable. Notice what these sentences do not contain. They do not diagnose the other person. They do not beg for agreement. They do not announce that everyone has always treated you badly. They do not threaten revenge. They identify a line. This is where courage enters Stoicism. Justice is not only about controlling yourself. It is also about dealing honestly with other people. Marcus Aurelius advised himself that when a person is mistaken, the right response is to show the error kindly when possible. Kindness here does not mean softness. It means the correction is aimed at the conduct, not at enjoying the person's pain. Try this simple structure. Name the behavior, state the standard, give the next step. You interrupted me 3 times. I need to finish my point. Then I will listen to your response. You called me stupid. I am willing to solve the problem, but I will not continue with personal insults. You arrived an hour late without contacting me. If plans change again, send me a message or I will leave. The tone matters. Calm is not a performance. It is the removal of unnecessary heat. You do not need to sound like a marble statue. You may be nervous. Your voice may shake. Courage is not a perfectly controlled voice. Courage is telling the truth while the voice shakes. Do not over-explain the legitimacy of your boundary. A common trap sounds like this. I hope you understand that I am not trying to be difficult, and I know you probably did not mean it, and I am sorry if this sounds sensitive, but maybe in the future, if it is not too much trouble. By the time the sentence reaches the boundary, it has already apologized for existing. Politeness is useful. Self-erasure is not. Another trap is the courtroom speech. You gather 10 examples and demand that the other person admit your complete interpretation of all 10. This feels thorough, but it often creates 10-side arguments. Start with the clearest behavior. Ask for one change. Watch what follows. Their response gives you information. A basically respectful person may feel embarrassed, but they can become curious. They may say, I did not realize that. I am sorry. They may ask what would work better. They may not respond perfectly, yet they show some willingness to repair. A person invested in control often changes the subject. They mock your tone. They claim your boundary is the real abuse. They demand examples, then dismiss every example. Or they offer an apology that punishes you for needing one. I am sorry you are so sensitive. Do not argue your way through endless denial. A boundary is not a debate motion. You are communicating the conditions under which you will participate. This brings us to a hard truth. Words without consequences are requests. Sometimes a request is enough. When it is not, climb to level 4. Level 4. Set the smallest consequence that protects the line. A consequence is not revenge. Revenge asks, how can I make you hurt because I hurt? A consequence asks, what will I do if this behavior continues? That difference is everything. You cannot control whether another person respects your boundary. You can control how much access, time, trust, labor, attention, or authority you continue to give them. This is the Stoic division of control turned into practical action. Suppose someone insults you during a call. A consequence may be ending the call. Suppose a friend repeatedly shares private information. A consequence may be that they no longer receive private information. Suppose a customer abuses staff. A consequence may be ending the service relationship under the rules of the business. Suppose a coworker takes credit for your work. A consequence may be documenting contributions in writing, copying the relevant project owner, and using the appropriate workplace process. The best consequence is not the most dramatic one. It is the smallest reliable action that protects the line. Why the smallest? Because power does not need decoration. If ending one conversation solves the problem, a public campaign is unnecessary. If a direct correction repairs the relationship, cutting the person off may be excessive. Stoicism asks for proportion, but proportion works in both directions. People who fear conflict often use consequences that are too small to matter. They say, "Please stop," 15 times, while changing nothing. Then they call themselves patient. That is not patience. It is a boundary with no door attached. A useful consequence has three qualities. It is connected to the behavior. It is within your control. It is something you are willing to carry out. If you raise your voice again, I will end the call as connected and controllable. If you raise your voice again, you will finally understand how much you hurt me is not within your control. If you embarrass me again, everyone will turn against you as a threat, not a boundary. Do not announce consequences you will not enforce. Empty warnings teach people that your words are weather, loud for a moment, gone without effect. Also, do not confuse forgiveness with restored access. You can release the wish for revenge and still require evidence before you trust again. You can understand why a person behaves badly and still decide that their presence is harmful. Compassion explains. It does not obligate access. In serious situations, consequences may need support. If disrespect at work includes harassment, discrimination, threats, retaliation, or repeated misconduct, preserve dates, exact language, witnesses, messages, and relevant documents. Use official workplace or legal channels appropriate to your situation. If you are in an abusive or dangerous relationship, prioritize safety and qualified support over confronting the person alone. Stoicism is not a substitute for protection, and calmness is not proof that a situation is safe. There is also a danger on the other side. Using the language of boundaries to control people. "You are not allowed to disagree with me" is not a healthy boundary. "If you spend time with your friends, I will punish you" is not self-protection. "You must manage every emotion I feel" is not personal responsibility. A boundary governs your participation. Control tries to govern another person's life. The Stoic question is always, what action is mine to take? And can I take it without violating justice? Set the consequence. Carry it out without a performance. Then do something many people skip. Study what happens next. Level 5. Study the pattern and the repair. One event tells you what happened once. A pattern tells you what relationship you are in. People make mistakes. They interrupt. They speak from stress. They misread a joke, reveal something carelessly, or use a tone they later regret. If every mistake becomes proof of a person's permanent character, no relationship can survive. But the opposite error is just as damaging. Some people treat every repeated act as a fresh misunderstanding. They keep accepting the same apology, because each individual incident can be explained. Do not study only the apology. Study the repair. A real repair usually contains 4 things. The person names what they did. They do not make your pain responsible for their behavior. They take a reasonable action to repair the damage. Their conduct changes over time. Consider the difference. "I am sorry you took it that way" does not name the act. "I was joking" explains intent, but does not address impact. "I only did it because you made me angry" transfers ownership. "I shared something you trusted me with. That was wrong. I have corrected the story with the people who heard it." and I will not repeat it begins a repair. The apology is not complete because the words are perfect. It becomes credible when the pattern changes. Use 3 questions. How often does this happen? What happens when I name it? What changes afterward? Frequency reveals habit. Response reveals character. Change reveals whether the relationship can become safe enough to continue. This level requires patience without self-deception. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people often do wrong from ignorance and confused judgment. That perspective can soften hatred. It cannot magically make an unsafe person trustworthy. Understanding motive and deciding access are separate tasks. A person may insult others because humiliation was normal in their family. That history deserves compassion. It also does not require you to become the next place where the pattern lives. A person may be overwhelmed, grieving, insecure, addicted, or afraid. Context matters. So does consequence. Stoic compassion is not the refusal to judge behavior. It is the refusal to become cruel while judging it accurately. Watch for intermittent respect. This is when someone treats you well just often enough to keep you invested, then returns to contempt when they feel secure. The good days do not cancel the pattern. They are part of the pattern. Watch for public respect and private contempt. Some people protect their reputation while damaging your confidence where no one can see it. Watch for the moving line. When you object to insults, they switch to jokes. When you object to jokes, they call you cold. When you ask for space, they accuse you of abandonment. The rule keeps changing because the goal was never mutual respect. The goal was continued access without accountability. Do not diagnose from a distance. You do not need a clinical label to decide that a pattern is unacceptable. This is freeing. You do not need to prove that someone is a terrible person before you reduce contact. You only need enough evidence that the relationship, in its present form, repeatedly asks you to betray your judgment, safety, or values. Study the pattern. Study the repair. Then choose the right arena for your response. Level 6. Select the right arena. Not every act of disrespect deserves the same stage. Some problems should be corrected in the moment. Some should be discussed privately. Some should be documented. Some should receive no further attention at all. Choosing the wrong arena can turn a solvable problem into a public identity contest. Ask what the response needs to accomplish. Does a false statement need correction because other people may rely on it? Does a colleague need immediate support because silence would leave them isolated? Is the relationship worth a private conversation? Is the other person performing for attention? Is there any reasonable outcome available here? If someone gives inaccurate information in a meeting, correct the information in the meeting. Keep it factual. The report was submitted Tuesday, and the approval email is here. You do not need to attack motive to protect the record. If someone makes a personal insult in front of others, a brief public line may be appropriate. Personal comments are not part of this discussion. Then return to the subject. The purpose is not to crush them. It is to stop the behavior and reset the standard. If a friend makes a careless joke at dinner and the relationship is normally respectful, a private conversation may create more honesty than a public confrontation. If an anonymous account insults you online, there may be no useful arena. Blocking, muting, reporting, or leaving can be more intelligent than donating an hour of your life to a stranger who wanted 10 seconds of reaction. Epictetus wrote that you can remain unconquered by refusing contests whose outcome is outside your control. Online arguments are often exactly that kind of contest. You cannot force a dishonest person to admit the truth. You cannot make a crowd interpret you fairly. You cannot control which sentence becomes a screenshot. You can decide whether the fight deserves your mind. Silence is powerful when it ends access to your attention, prevents an impulsive mistake, or refuses a dishonest frame. Silence is weak when it hides fear from a necessary conversation. Silence is cruel when it is used to make someone anxious. Guess what they did? Or beg for contact. The same outward act can serve three different motives. Stoicism cares about the motive because character is formed inside the action. Here is a simple test. After your silence, is the situation clearer or more manipulated? If you have already stated the boundary, and the other person is baiting you, silence may be complete. If the person does not know there is a problem, and the relationship matters, silence may be avoidance. If you are withholding contact to force obedience, silence may be punishment. Choose an arena that protects truth, safety, and proportion. Sometimes that arena includes a witness. A difficult workplace conversation may be better with a manager or representative present. A high-conflict exchange may belong in writing. A dangerous situation may require professional, legal, or emergency support. You do not earn moral points for handling everything alone. The fantasy of the perfectly self-contained person is not Stoicism. The Stoics viewed human beings as social. Reason includes using the structures, people, and protections available to you. Once you choose the arena, refuse to let the scene grow larger than the principle. State the fact. State the line. Take the action. Then, if the pattern continues, step away. Level 7. Step away without carrying the person inside you. Leaving is sometimes the most honest response. Not every relationship can be corrected. Not every person wants repair. Not every room deserves another explanation. But there are two ways to leave. You can remove your body while carrying the argument everywhere. Or you can remove access and slowly release the need to win. The first kind of leaving changes the location. The second changes your life. Distance may mean ending a call. It may mean no longer discussing personal subjects. It may mean changing teams, ending a friendship, leaving a relationship, blocking an account, or using formal support to create safety. The correct distance depends on the facts. But the inner work is similar. Stop waiting for the person who disrespected you to become the judge who restores your worth. They may never understand. They may tell a version in which they are innocent. They may call your boundary cruelty and your distance betrayal. If your peace depends on their agreement, they still have a room inside your mind. This is where the deepest Stoic lesson appears. Your character cannot be granted by another person's opinion, and it cannot be removed by their contempt. Epictetus began his handbook by separating what is ours from what is not. Reputation is not fully ours. Other people's speech is not ours. Their apology is not ours. Our judgment, choices, and conduct are ours. That does not make reputation meaningless. False accusations can affect jobs, families, and communities. Correct the record where needed. Protect yourself. Use evidence and proper channels. But do not turn the impossible task of controlling every mind into your life's work. Marcus Aurelius asked himself to consider whether another person's act had made his own character worse. That is the final measure. Did their insult make you dishonest? Did their mockery make you cruel? Did their contempt make you contemptuous of everyone? Did their betrayal convince you never to trust wisely again? The injury becomes deeper when one person's failure becomes your new philosophy of humanity. Do not let a disrespectful person recruit you into their way of living. You can remember what happened without rehearsing it every morning. You can learn without worshiping the wound. You can forgive without reopening the door. You can refuse hatred while keeping distance. Forgiveness in this sense is not a declaration that the act was acceptable. It is the decision that your future will not remain organized around repayment. Sometimes you will still be angry. Sometimes the perfect response will return while you are driving, showering, or trying to sleep. Your mind will rewrite the scene and finally make you victorious. Notice what is happening. You are trying to win a room that no longer exists. Return to the room you are in. Ask, what does dignity require today? Maybe it requires one email documenting the facts. Maybe it requires an apology for the part you handled badly. Maybe it requires keeping the distance you already chose. Maybe it requires giving the next person a fair chance instead of making them pay for someone else's behavior. Stepping away is not the end of courage. It is courage redirected toward the life that remains. The dignity ladder in one real situation. Let us put the entire method into one scene. Imagine that you are at a family dinner. A relative says, "You always start things and never finish them." That is why nobody takes your plans seriously. The room becomes quiet. Level 1C. The fact is that they made a broad personal judgment about you in front of the family. Perhaps there is a real history of unfinished plans. That does not make public humiliation useful or necessary. Level 2. Slow. You feel the urge to list every failure in their life. Instead, you breathe once and keep your voice level. Level 3. Speak. You say, "If you want to discuss one of my plans, ask me privately. Do not make personal judgments about me at dinner." Level 4. Set. They laugh and say, "See, you cannot take a joke." You answer, "I have told you the line. If it continues, I am leaving." They repeat the comment. You leave. Level 5. Study. Later you examine the pattern. Is this rare? Do they contact you, name what they did, and change? Or do they recruit other relatives, minimize the event, and repeat it at the next gathering? Level 6. Select. If repair seems possible, you speak privately. If the person distorts private conversations, you use writing or include a trusted third person. If they only want drama, you stop offering stages. Level 7. Step away. If the pattern continues, you shorten visits, remove personal topics, or stop attending events where the behavior is accepted. You do not launch a campaign to make the whole family choose sides. You make the decision that is yours. Notice what this method does not promise. It does not promise that the relative will respect you. It does not promise that everyone at the table will understand. It does not promise that leaving will feel good immediately. It promises something more honest. You will have a process that does not depend on anger, fear, or their permission. That is calm authority. 3 mistakes that look stoic but are not. Before we finish, there are 3 false versions of Stoicism that must be rejected. The first is emotional theater. This is the person who wants everyone to know that nothing affects them. They speak in a flat voice, refuse to admit pain, and treat vulnerability as defeat. But needing to look unbothered is another form of being controlled by opinion. You are allowed to be hurt. You are allowed to tell the truth about it. Stoicism asks what you do with emotion, not whether your nervous system produces it. The second false version is moral laziness. It says, "I cannot control them, so I will do nothing." You cannot control a fire, but you can leave the building, call for help, and warn others. The limit of control is not the end of responsibility. It tells you where responsible action begins. You may not control the bully. You can support the target. You may not control a dishonest coworker. You can document your work. You may not control a relative's mouth. You can decide which conversations and gatherings receive your presence. The third false version is revenge, dressed as self-respect. This version loves phrases such as make them regret it, show them what they lost, and become so powerful they fear you. That is not freedom. It is a life still pointed at the offender. If your success is designed as a message to them, they remain your audience. If your silence is designed to torture them, they remain your focus. If your transformation requires their regret, Your peace still depends on their reaction. Real self-respect is quieter. It does not need the other person to witness the life they no longer control. It asks a better question. Not, how do I make them sorry, but what kind of person will I be now? Closing. Keep your second decision. The next time someone disrespects you, remember the two decisions in the room. They decide how they will act. You decide what their action will turn you into. See what happened before your mind writes a larger story. Slow the first impulse long enough for judgment to return. Speak the boundary without apologizing for it. Set the smallest consequence that actually protects the line. Study the pattern and the repair, not just the apology. Select the arena that serves truth instead of drama. Step away when continued access would require continued self-betrayal. You will not handle every moment perfectly. Sometimes you will freeze. Sometimes you will overreact. Sometimes you will think of the clear sentence long after the room is empty. Do not turn one imperfect response into another reason to abandon yourself. Review it. Repair what is yours. Prepare one sentence for next time. That is practice. The Stoics did not become steady by reading one sentence about calm. They trained judgment through ordinary friction, delays, insults, losses, difficult people, and their own mistakes. Your difficult person is not your teacher because they are wise. The situation becomes a teacher because you can use it to practice wisdom. So when the laugh comes, when the message arrives, when the voice rises, do not ask only, how dare they treat me this way? Ask, what response will I respect tomorrow? That question is the beginning of dignity. If you want to make the lesson concrete, leave one word in the comments. See, slow, speak, set, study, select, or step away. Choose the step you need most right now. And if you want practical Stoic philosophy without fake toughness, empty revenge, or borrowed quotes, subscribe for the next reflection. Protect your boundary, but keep your character.